Camera's on?
Oh yeah, okay. Welcome everyone. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I would like to remind everyone to turn off their cell phones and electronic devices. And I'd like to welcome you to the regular board meeting on Monday, December 16th, 2024, starting at about 6:03 p.m. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. I would like to state that the students, staff, and communities of Winnipeg School Division are committed to truth and reconciliation through building relationships with Mother Earth, the original peoples of this land, and the stories that bring us together. We acknowledge the place in which we gather is on Treaty 1 territory, the homeland of the Red River Métis, and the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Innuit, and Dakota Oyate peoples. Mr. Bodkin, roll call, please.
Trustee Evangelista.
Present.
Trustee Adele.
Here.
Trustee Habate.
Here.
Trustee Chambers.
Here.
Trustee Brothers.
Here.
Trustee Dumont.
Here.
Trustee Aviso. Trustee Hepner. And Trustee Cooley.
Here. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Moved by Trustee Habate and seconded by Trustee Dumont that the agenda be approved. Are there any additions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, we're on to our delegation. Before we begin, I would like to remind delegations that in accordance with procedural bylaw 1263 section 32.8, each delegation shall be granted 10 minutes to make your presentation to the board. So we're welcoming Ian Walker, the chair and spokesperson for Safe Speeds Winnipeg, and Julie Schroeder, a resident of the Winnipeg School Division area. Thank you both. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Ian Walker. I'm chair and spokesperson for Safe Speeds Winnipeg. I'm also a trustee for Ward 1 of the Winnipeg School Division and a grade 1-2 teacher for the East Transcona School Division. Introduce yourself.
My name is Julia Schroeder. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a resident of Ward 7 in Winnipeg School Division. I live in Glenelg. And I'm also a grade 3-4 teacher in the East Transcona School Division, as well as the secretary for the Glenelg Neighborhood Association and a member of Bike Winnipeg.
Thanks. Okay, so Safe Speeds Winnipeg. If you can go on to the next slide.
Let me move it into the slideshow. Is that going to mess everything up?
No, I think.
There might be a security alert or something.
Oh, that's fine. I don't know. What do we think? I promise we're not scary.
There you go.
All right, so Safe Speeds Winnipeg is a grassroots initiative to engage citizens about the impact of vehicle speed on people and Winnipeg's neighborhoods. We uphold mobility as a human right in all the ways people move within our city. We value the safety of all Winnipeg's residents. We've been urging the city of Winnipeg to amend the speed limit bylaw to enforce a default speed limit of 30 kilometers an hour. So essentially that means we'd like to see speed limits be 30 kilometers an hour unless otherwise posted. So right now they're 50 unless otherwise posted. We think that unless there's a good reason to have a higher speed limit, if you're on an arterial road or a collector street, we have higher speed limits, but on residential streets we feel very strongly that we should be having a safe speed limit so that kids can walk to school and people can be out in their communities safely and comfortably. Next slide. So with Safe Speeds, it promotes healthy people and thriving neighborhoods. You get people out of their cars, you get them moving around. Children are more likely to play outside and commute actively to school. I live in the Norwood Flats, and it's a very calm neighborhood when it comes to people driving. So you see lots of kids out playing and going out on the monkey trails, playing at the parks and whatnot. Older adults are more likely to choose active transportation in neighborhoods with safe speeds, and in areas where you have more people walking and biking, it's very good for retail businesses. You have more folks that are getting to the store via foot and bike. The 6th UN Global Road Safety Week, this was a few years ago, this was in 2022 I believe, called for policymakers to act for low speed streets worldwide, limiting speeds to 30 kilometers an hour where people walk, live and play. Go on to the next slide. And you'll see in this slide here the effects of speed on the outcomes of people being hit by a car. So at 30 kilometers an hour, it takes you a lot less time to think because you're moving slowly, and it doesn't take you very much time to be able to stop. somebody struck by a vehicle going 30 kilometers an hour is very likely to survive, whereas at 50 kilometers an hour, you have about a 1.5 out of 10 chance of survival. So the outcomes change dramatically at that speed. In Winnipeg, I took this from a climate report that came out in 2022. You can see that the rates of people being injured and killed by cars is quite a bit higher in Winnipeg than it is in other major Canadian cities. And here I took this from another site. There are an awful lot of kids in North America that are being driven to school. Oftentimes, as a teacher, I hear it's because parents are afraid to let their kids walk and bike to school. In countries where people are prioritized, people walking are prioritized, people cycling are prioritized, you have a much higher rate of people that are walking to school. And Japan is very interesting, because the way they set up their prefectures is you have lots of low speeds, you have lots of people walking and biking, and then people use mass transit to get into the cities. So you don't have a need to have a car to go shopping or go to school or go to work. So the school drop-off, I'm sure you folks are all familiar with this. The schools in your school division are probably all very busy in the morning. I've in the past been responsible for asking parents politely not to park in certain spots. It's a very difficult thing to do. I've had friends in other school divisions and other schools that have had some awful things said to them. They've had people threaten them with violence because they want to be able to drop their kids off. So it's not a good situation when you have lots and lots and lots of people queuing up to drop their kids off. People lose their patience trying to find a parking spot. So we really want to see more kids walking and biking to school, because that'll ease the congestion around our schools and make them safer places to be. Next slide here. So Julia's going to hopefully be able to play this video.
You wouldn't see this kind of thing in many other cities in Finland, especially.
This is in Finland. Let's play it for 1 second. I can play the whole video.
Oh, it's definitely one of the best cities.
You can see here their bike racks in the middle of winter are full of bicycles. So Julie and I met Pekka in Edmonton last year. A group of us from Bike Winnipeg went to the Winter Cycling Congress, and he told us about kids walking and biking to school. And the reason they do that isn't because they're tougher than our kids. They're not tougher than us. They have prioritized kids getting to school. So they have a network of bike paths and low-speed streets that allow kids to safely get to and from school. And they're doing it on regular bicycles. They don't have fat tires, they don't have studs on their tires. They just do their best to make sure that there's lots of routes and that the snow's cleared quickly so that people can get to and from where they need to go. So in Winnipeg, we asked in 2019, we first went to City Council and asked for the default change, and Winnipeg City Council doesn't like to do things first or quickly, so they wanted to study it extensively. So they started by implementing these neighborhood greenways, and I actually pulled a picture here. This is in your school division on Wolseley Avenue. They reduced the speed limit a number of years ago, and just this summer they've installed permanent traffic calming. So here they've put in an island that's narrowed the street at the stop sign there to make it, I think that's Ruby, correct? That's right, you've got one of your schools right behind here. I think that's
Laura Secord, yeah.
So essentially, by lowering the speed limit, it has allowed the city to do traffic calming in front of the school to make it safer for the kids in that neighborhood to walk and bike to school. And I know that around Laura Secord, they had done some temporary traffic calming. They had a school street, I think at one point, where they shut part of the street down and whatnot. But ultimately, this allows people to still drive, but it makes it a lot easier for kids to walk and bike. So it's something we're really proud that the city took on. I think it was a good neighborhood to trial it out. One of the things that the city did is they implemented reduced speed neighborhood pilots. So they chose 4 neighborhoods around the city. They picked Burkevale, which is to the south of Portage Avenue and to the west of Route 90. It's a nice little pocket, so they're very easily just able to put up 30-kilometer-hour signs on every block, and the people in the neighborhood love it. They actually had done a lot of advocacy work to be part of the pilot program, and the city ultimately picked them. Tyndall Park was another area that was chosen to be 30 kilometers an hour. The folks there didn't know about it, but from what I've been hearing, there was positive outcomes. Not quite as positive as Burkevale. When you have an area where people want it, obviously it's going to be a lot more positive. And then the city, just to play devil's advocate, they wanted to trial 40-kilometer-hour neighborhoods too. And there were some councillors at the time that felt 40 was more appropriate, so they chose Worthington, which was in Councillor May's ward. And that's a neighborhood that is just to the north of Abinogi-Mi'kmaq, between St. Anne's and St. Mary's Road. And they chose Richmond West, which is in Janice Luke's ward. It is just to the north of the Perimeter Highway and west of Pembina Highway. And from what I understand, it's gone well, but in Richmond West, there's actually been a couple of streets that have been lowered to 30 kilometers an hour during the pilot, because they were having some real problems with people going too fast through the neighborhood still. So it was kind of telling that there was folks still complaining about speed, and the city reacted and lowered the speed limit on a couple of streets there. Next one. This here is my, my bike bus. So in the spring of 2022, my friend Suzanne Simpson is a teacher at Provencher School, where my kids were going to school at the time. And I had been doing lots of group ride leading with Julia and our friends at Bike Winnipeg. So she asked me if I would help lead a bike bus. So I was happy to volunteer my time to do that. It was wildly popular. I think on our largest ride we had about 60 people attend. And the message that I got from a lot of parents was they loved the idea of their kids walking and biking to school, but they were only comfortable doing it in a setting where you had me in a vest, leading a large group and making sure that the road was safe for their kids. They otherwise didn't feel comfortable letting their kids do it. So we demonstrated that there's a demand for it, but there's also the environment doesn't exist to do it. So we've been working on this campaign, and we're reaching the end of it. We're expecting the pilot program to come back in a report to City Council sometime in the first quarter of 2025. And this is myself and my good friend Sean. We were out door knocking last night on Saint Jean Baptiste, which is a street that connects École de Provencher and École Henri Bergeron. My kids go to Henri Bergeron, and we found that there's just so much high-speed traffic through the neighborhood between these two school zones. There's a 30K zone in front of Henri Bergeron, one in front of Provencher, but the 2 blocks between the two schools doesn't have a lower speed limit. So people speed up and they're tearing through there. There's a marked crosswalk without lights, so it's not really a terribly safe place for kids to be crossing the road, and there's an awful lot of kids walking and biking to school there. So this was initiated because my friend Sean's daughter, Adriana, was almost struck by a vehicle while she was working as a crossing guard. So she was crossing kids, and she had her stick out, and the car came and whacked her stick while she was closing up. So we're really keen to see people not cutting through our community to bypass streets like Desmarais and Taché Street. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. What I'm hoping for, hi, how's it going? Come on in. What we're hoping from you folks is that you might engage with your constituents. I'm planning on spending the next couple of months knocking on doors and talking to folks about why it's important, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think at the end of the day, our society has already accepted that a 30-kilometer-an-hour speed limit is safe. It's a speed limit we've had outside of our schools since 2011. But it's not safety that we're affording our children that are already walking and biking. So my kids walk from Norwood Flats to Central St. Boniface, and most of the streets they walk down, or the sidewalks they're walking down and crossing the street, are 50. So they aren't afforded the safety as the kids that are being dropped off on a school bus or by their parents. So I find that problematic as a parent. I think that it's important that my kids have the same safety that everyone else does. So I was on the doorstep last night when we were knocking. Over 90% of the people that we spoke with signed our petition. So it was actually a really easy sell. And it was good constituency work. So if you folks are wanting to have a reason to engage with your constituents, that might be a good reason to get out and talk to them about it. Because I know in Glenelg, Trustee Cully, you have a lot of folks that are interested, and there's actually, I believe, going to be some door knocking happening in that area too. And they're not going to be looking at talking to you necessarily, but I know they'll be looking to connect with their city council and their MLA, because both of those people have the power to make this default speed limit change tomorrow.
Awesome. And we know in our neighborhood that both when we've engaged with the Glenelg Neighborhood Association, and then also with Chalmers and Renewal Corp, when we do our community engagement, both groups, one of the top issues of the neighborhood is that high-speed traffic. And the inability to walk, especially for children, seniors, and other folks in our community who do not or cannot drive.
Okay. Well, thank you both very much. a motion is not required to receive the presentations, but trustees, do you have any questions for our delegation? Can we minimize so we can see if Trustee Brothers has anything there? There we go. Hi, Trustee Brothers. Did you have any questions?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Evangelista, go ahead.
I have are you able to share with us some materials or plans so that we would understand better? So what will be the next, right? So are they going to pilot, in different neighborhoods? Because I want to know where can I go, first to prioritize and help with the petition.
I would probably start around schools that are close to one another, filling in those gaps. That's why we started on St. John Baptist. We said there's a 2-block gap between these schools, zones. Why don't we close that up? And our city councilor is open to the idea, so that was another reason we chose that spot. But in terms of pilots, we're at the end of doing the pilots. And that's something city council does because they like to kick the can down the road to let everybody have time to digest a new idea. Because at the end of the day, change is hard, and our society is so used to driving. 80% of the folks in the city drive, but 20% of our population doesn't drive. So we aren't really affording those people the same kinds of benefits that we are drivers. And at the end of the day, asking people to go 30 kilometers an hour on a residential street will add seconds onto their commute, because most of the streets will still remain at higher speeds. And folks driving in rush hour, I've driven it the last few days, I bike you around, but arterial traffic is not moving at high speed. When I'm driving to work in a car, I'm going slower than I have been on my e-bike getting to school. So driving is slow, and it'll actually be beneficial to drivers to lower the speed limit on residential streets, because you'll get more people walking and biking, which will reduce the number of people that are driving. So it's win-win-win. It's just this notion of people's mindset changing and being open-minded to trying something out. And at the end of the day, if it's a disaster, you can go back. So the pilots are done. We've done the pilot neighborhoods. They were there for a year. The city has done a ton of consultation with folks in those areas. They've had questionnaires on websites. We spent 6 years at it. So we're kind of getting to the point where we're all done, and we all need to make a decision on how to move forward.
And this is coming to city council, and that is there expected to be a vote, a motion to make this change at that meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we don't know exactly when it's going to come, but the way it'll work is it'll be posted to the Public Works agenda 4 days before the meeting. So we'll have 4 days of lead time, which is one of the reasons we're preparing the community. We've been talking to the folks that have supported us over the years, and we're reaching out to new people. If Public Works accepts the report and then moves it on to EPC, then it'll move to EPC. The other option they can do is take it as information and table it, and it'll be gone. I don't suspect that will happen. I expect it'll go to EPC. So if you folks are familiar with EPC, it's made up of the mayor, his 6 councillors. So they're not the majority of council anymore. I believe they cut 2 councillors off the EPC after the last election. So if they accept the report and then move it on to council, then all 15 councillors, the mayor will get to decide the fate of the safety of our children and other folks that aren't walking, that aren't driving.
Okay.
So we've heard that there's lots of positive support. We've heard that likely the report, based on the feedback that the city has provided in earlier stages, it seems like it's likely to provide that recommendation for 30, because those pilots got much better feedback and had much higher success rates than the 40-kilometer pilots. So we are very hopeful, but it does end up coming down to getting those votes from our city councilors, both at the Executive Policy Committee as well as at the full council meeting. So any work that we can do and any work that any of you are willing to do to door knock, to talk to constituents, and to get them to also call their city councilors and to get them on board will make a massive difference. Because right now, what we often hear from city councilors is, well, everyone who calls us is just calling to complain about the slower speed roads. Because let's be honest, people who are happy don't usually call their city councilors because they're just gonna live their lives. So we need to get people who are happy with these changes to start calling city councilors, to start showing up to meetings. And as people who work with children, just like we do, we hope that you see what a massive difference that these slower speed limits can make in our communities in terms of the safety of our children, our communities, and our schools. And so we're really hoping that you will come on board as allies and folks who are willing to make this ask to our community, so that when the city councilors come to these meetings, that what they have heard from their constituents in their community is that yes, we want this. Yes, it's important that our children are safe.
If I could add something. When we first proposed this in 2019, Councillor Jeff Prawati thought that it wouldn't be very popular with the public, so he did a poll of about 1,000 Winnipeggers, and what they found is that in communities like Winnipeg School Division, so the areas more in the center of the city, it was very popular. It was a little bit less popular when you got up to the suburbs, probably because they're more car dependent. So you are all representing folks that probably already want this. So if you're engaging with people, I would be surprised if you were getting fewer than 50%. I would guess you'd be getting 75 to 90% of your constituents that would like to see this change. So I believe that if you got out there, you can even just go knock on a couple of streets and test the water, see what people are feeling.
Thank you very much. I'll ask Brenda, I know we got the presentation, and there's references. Well, maybe, I think you're probably very interested in that. Can we provide that to the whole board? Okay, okay. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate you coming out on this snowy night and for presenting this to us.
Thank you.
Can you make Lois bigger? Because I want to make sure she has a question.
Oh, stop share?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up at the top.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, click on that. There she is.
Sorry.
There it is. There we go. Now I can see if she puts up her hand. All right, moving on to reading and confirming of minutes, moved by trustee Evangelista, seconded by trustee Aviso, that the minutes dated December 2nd, 2024 be approved as distributed. All those in favor? Carried. Item 6, presentation and consideration of reports. The Building and Transportation Committee report number 4-2024 dated November 26, 2024, moved by trustee Havate, seconded by trustee Adele. That the Building and Transportation Committee report number 4-24 dated November 26, 2024 be received as information. All those in favor? Carried. Trustee Abate, do you have any recommendations? Okay.
The Building and Transportation Committee would like to recommend that the revised terms of reference for the Building Transportation Committee be approved.
Can I get a seconder? Trustee Adele? All those in favor? Carried. Any other recommendations? That's it? Just the one? Okay. Oh, there's one more. Yes. I have 2 marks.
All right. The Building and Transportation Committee also wants to recommend that the revised policy KG, community use of schools, be approved.
Okay, the seconder, trustee Adele. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Item 6.2, moved by trustee Havate and seconded by trustee Brothers, that the Newcomer Education Ad Hoc Committee report number 4-2024 dated November 26, 2024 be received as information. All those in favor? Carried. Item 6.3, moved by trustee Adele and seconded by trustee Dumont, that the Education Equity Advisory Committee report number 7-2024 dated November 27th, 2024 be received as information. All those in favor? Carried. Trustee Adele, do you have any recommendations?
I will as
Okay.
how I was booted out of here. The Education Equity Advisory Committee is making a recommendation that the terms of reference for the Education Equity Advisory Committee be approved.
Can I get a seconder? Trustee Hefner, you guys have different names in front of you. All those in favor? Carried. And that was just the one, right?
Yes.
Trustee Adele, thank you. Item 6.4, moved by Trustee Brothers and seconded by Trustee Avizo, that the Student Advisory Committee Report Number 3-2024 dated November 28th, 2024 be received as information. All those in favor? Carried. Item 6.5. Moved by Trustee Evangelista, seconded by Trustee Dumont, that the Policy Program Committee Report Number 3-2024 dated November 2nd, 2024 be received as information. All those in favor? Carried. Trustee Dumont, do you have any recommendations? Nope. Trustee Evangelista, do you have any recommendations?
Chair, the Policy and Program Committee has 4 recommendations. The first one is that policy JGB detention be rescinded.
Can I get a mover? Trustee Hefner? All those in favor? Carried.
Now,
Go
the
ahead.
second recommendation is that policy IGBB, programs for gifted, talented students, be rescinded as well.
Can I get a seconder? Trustee Chambers. All those in favor? Okay. Carried.
Now, the third recommendation of the committee is that the new policy, GCS, Consent Awareness, be distributed to all unions for feedback not later than March 1st, 2025.
Can I get a seconder? Trustee Dumont? All those in favor? Carried.
And the last of the 4 recommendations is that revised policy IGDF, fundraising in schools, be approved.
Can I get a seconder? Trustee Avizo? Is there any discussion? I've been forgetting to ask that. I apologize. Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 6.6, moved by Trustee Dumont, seconded by Trustee Brothers, that the Environmental Advisory Committee Report Number 2-2024 dated November 23rd, 2024 be received as information. All those in favor? Carried. On to inquiries and announcements. Does anyone have anything? Trustee Avizo.
Okay, Madam Chair, I attended last December 5, the annual Winter Craft Night at John M. King. This is my second time to attend this festive event. The teachers and staff served sumptuous meals to the students and their families. The gym was filled up with craft tables where volunteers from the students of Daniel Mack, who were former students of John M. King, help out in making Christmas ornaments and crafts to the great students of JMK. It was a fun evening meeting the staff, students, and JMK and the families as well. And also December 9, I witnessed the announcement of the federal government contribution to an investment for the eco-friendly retrofit for the building renovation of Gordonville High School. According to MP Duguid, this will reduce 51% of carbon print and save energy costs by 70%. The event was attended by students and staff. Our Superintendent Matt was there, Principal Ben Huyn, and media personnel. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything? Trustee Evangelista? Oh, go ahead. It doesn't matter. Trustee Evangelista, you go.
You're the chair.
Everyone's like this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to share a sweet success from Tyndall Park's rooftop honey project. Tyndall Park Community School is making a powerful impact on nature and climate action with its innovative rooftop beehive initiative, and it was spearheaded by the school's Environmental and Sustainable Development committee, in collaboration with local apiarists, I searched what's an apiarist. Apiary apparently is a place where bees are kept. Jordan Janice, the project turned used roof space into a thriving ecosystem. So the honey they sold was from the roof, not from the store. That's according to this grade 5 student, Francine. So thanks to the parents who supported this meaningful project by purchasing honey during the parent-teacher conferences last December 5th. The second one is also from Tyndall Park School. I'd like to congratulate Diane Doe for receiving the Teaching in the Early Years Award. Diane inspires healthier, more active futures through her leadership in divisional events and mentorship. And the third one is congratulations to Karen Johnson. She's a band teacher at General Wolf School for receiving the prestigious King Charles III Award at the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. Karen's remarkable 17 years of service to Winnipeg School Division students and her dedication to the regimental band of the Royal Winnipeg Rifles have left a lasting impact on our community and beyond. So congratulations. And finally, happy holidays, everyone. Keep safe and warm since it's our last meeting for the year. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Huffner. Thank you for being gracious and welcoming me being late. The roads were quite adventurous, but I had the pleasure last week to be able to attend the celebration and launch of Winnipeg School Division's Universal Nutrition Program. And it was a great honor to be there, to be able to celebrate the staff and students, the student council especially, welcomed us at Hugh John, and it was great to be there. I think it's a really amazing thing that we can partner with the federal government, the provincial government, the Schroeder Foundation, and being able to provide nutritious meals for our students, and in a way removing a lot of barriers, but also just being able to make sure that all of our students can be fully engaged. It was just a really awesome thing. I'm excited about the potential of this program. So, thank you. Anybody else?
I have one, Tamara.
Yeah, go right ahead. Go ahead.
I would just like to say that I was at Churchill High School musical last Wednesday evening called Legally Blonde, and it was very entertaining. And it's the second year they've done a musical in a row, and so I just commend all the directors and everybody involved, because that's a lot of work, and it was just a pleasure to be there.
Thank you. I have one too. I had the opportunity last week, I believe it was on Thursday. It's been a bit busy in our household, so I believe it was on Thursday. My daughter asked that I attend the Sisler throwback dance concert with her because she had a friend that was there. So I got to go to a school that's not in my ward but is in Winnipeg School Division, and it was incredible. It was the dance classes showing off all that they can do, plus the Sisler dance team, which I'm going to get wrong, the name. But they did a fantastic job. They had 2 shows, and the second show was sold out for the little $2 tickets. So it was fantastic to watch, and it was a really nice opportunity to go into a school that I don't normally get to see and see some students dance. So thank you. All right. Let's move on to, where are we? New business. Item 8.1, moved by Trustee Dumont and seconded by Trustee Avizo, that bylaw 1323, a bylaw of the Winnipeg School Division for the purpose of borrowing $96,800 for certain building projects, be introduced and read a first time in short. All those in favor? Carried. Mr. Bodkin.
Bylaw 1323, a bylaw of the Winnipeg School Division for the purpose of borrowing $96,800 and of issuing a debenture or promissory note hereinafter called a security, therefore.
Moved by Trustee Dumont and seconded by Trustee Avizo that the rules be suspended in order for bylaw 1323 to be read a second time in short. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Trustee Dumont, seconded by Trustee Avizo that bylaw 1323 now be read a second time in short. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Mr. Bodkin.
Bylaw 1323, a bylaw of the Winnipeg School Division for the purpose of borrowing $96,800 and of issuing a debenture or promissory note hereinafter called a security, therefore.
Moved by trustee Dumont and seconded by trustee Avizo that the rules be suspended in order for bylaw 1323 to be read a third time in short. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by trustee Dumont, seconded by trustee Avizo that the bylaw 1323 be read a third time in short and passed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Mr. Bodkin.
Bylaw 1323, a bylaw of the Winnipeg School Division for the purpose of borrowing $96,800 and of issuing a debenture or promissory note hereinafter called security, therefore.
Thank you. Item 8.2, French immersion catchment boundaries. Moved by trustee Adele and seconded by trustee Chambers. That the French immersion catchment boundaries report be distributed to parent councils and advisory committees to request feedback on the proposed catchment boundaries no later than March 31st, 2025. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by trustee Chambers and seconded by trustee Brothers that the board move into business matters as defined in Rule 44.7. Carried.
I'm gonna get a cough drop.